Hey Merfolk, Mermaid Waverly here. Welcome back. I'm making these videos really close together, so if you just watched my Arctic Blue video, then welcome back. If you didn't, make sure you go check that one out as well. I am here wearing my Mermaid Dazzle crown. I love this one, it matches my Malibu pink, which is my signature perfectly, and I have another custom crown from her on the way. It's going to be here very soon. I'm very excited about. So today I'm going to be talking about the Asian Magenta from FinFun. So we did actually get to receive the new redesigned Asian Magenta tail. It was just sent to me in the mail. So I figured it would be neat as I do kind of an unboxing to compare the original Asian Magenta, which I do have, and then compare it with the new one. So based on what I've seen from the other Mermaidens tails, especially the new ones, I'm really excited to see what this one's going to look like in person. I've seen pictures of it and videos of the new one, but I haven't really looked at it super close. And I was very pleasantly surprised by all the details and things I totally didn't notice about Arctic Blue, so I'm excited to see what's going to be on this one. So before I go ahead and open it up, I do want to show you, this is the original Asian Magenta. I have it on the Monofin here. And this is one of my earliest tails that I've got. I do love purple, and so this one definitely had to be part of my collection. So here's the original tail. It looks a lot like pretty much all of the Mermaidens tails. You've got the kind of watery fabric here where it looks like the water's kind of going up and down the fluke here. We've got this darker spot where the fluke meets the scales. And then the scales start out really, really tiny here, and then they taper off and get a little bit bigger. Not super large, but they do kind of end up here. Okay. So it's pretty much, for the most part, it's not super varied in color. Each of the scales tend to be like darker up top, and then they go to like more of a lighter, almost purple, or almost pink at the bottom of each scale. And there's some lighter purples into pinks in the fluke, but for the most part it's fairly even in its color. So here's the original, and now we're going to go ahead and open up the new one. So something that's fun about this one, and I can't really show it to you because then I can't show you my address because that's weird, but this package is actually handwritten. Normally we get our packages and, you know, it's a pre-done mailing label, and it's, you know, clearly from a production, you know, studio. But these ones are from, clearly from the warehouse, from FinFun, in Idaho Falls. And so I just really love that touch that it's, I can just see that my address is handwritten, and the return address is handwritten as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up. So we'll see, probably going to start with the scissors because if you've watched any of my videos before, I tend to cut the bags or just not be able to open them. I think I'm good today, though. Alright, here it is. So excited. Okay, so even as just like a very first glance, I'm already seeing way more colors in this one than the original. Whoa! Oh, and the scales are so different, too! Wow, okay, so here it is in the bag. You can see with the original, all the scales looked the same. These definitely do not, and they definitely do not have, they're not patterned like the traditional Mermaidens scales are. And I already can see the lines on that fluke are really, really neat. So let's go ahead and open it up, see what we got. Ooh. Ooh, it's so pretty. Okay, so the fluke is white. The tips are, I mean, that's white. That's pretty white, which is very different. So, ooh, look at that. So as far as like the basic pattern goes, it's still the same. You still have these lines that definitely make it a realistic looking fluke with the darker colors and the lines, and then the lighter colors kind of tapering off towards the middle. This one has like more distinct even lines. I don't know if you can see it quite as far away, but there you go, where it's very geometric. There we go. Where the scales meet the fluke, it's a little bit different. So instead of having that super dark color where it kind of fades just into that water, the scales instead get super, super little, like very quickly, and then it moves into the fluke pattern. So here are the scales. There's a lot more pink in this one than in the original. There's a lot more variation in color. There's also a lot of black. There wasn't in the original as well. So if you notice kind of at the very top of each fluke, or each scale there, there's a little black spot. And it definitely does create that depth, like I was mentioning on the Arctic blue as well. Even though the scales on the Arctic blue are completely different, because these ones are very, the edges are softer. They're more like triangle shaped versus a straight circle. And even just the edges themselves, the lines are a little bit softer versus the kind of hard, like gem looking ones of the Arctic blue. We do still have that color getting a little lighter and very pink towards the top, which is what they have been doing recently with a lot of their tails to make them look more realistic. All right, so here is the new Asian Magenta on the Monofin. So this one, when I go to compare them, this one is on my AMP, my Advanced Monofin Pro, so it's a little bit stiffer. My old one is on the just the traditional Monofin Pro. So just like the Arctic blue, if you'll notice, the spot where the scales meet the fluke is a little bit more towards the edge of the fluke. My feet pockets are right about here. Normally, at least with the older ones, and I'll show you in a sec, where it starts to change into the fluke is usually right where your feet are. But this one tends to go a little bit longer, and it does make your tail actually look a little bit longer, so I think that looks really neat. So here it is on the Monofin. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't think there's anything that I'm noticing specifically now having it on the Monofin that I didn't when it wasn't on the Monofin, which is what happened a little bit with the Arctic blue. But it's still very neat, and yeah, I love the colors here. It's just like someone's taken a paintbrush and like watercolors. So, all right, let me go ahead and show you both of them together. So here is the old and the new. So they are technically the same tail, but you'll see there's definitely a lot of differences, which is neat because if you're somebody that has a lot of the older Mermaid's designs, but the newer ones interest you, they're definitely different enough that I think it's worth looking at, especially if it's a tail that you know, you really love or you really like what they did with it, with the new things. And if you haven't really gotten a chance to give them a look, because you have all the old ones, I would recommend giving it a shot because take a look at that. They're very different. So you can see what I mean about the scales changing. So if you'll notice, like all the way up here is where the, sorry, this is hard to hold. So I have my hands in about the same place on the fluke. And if you notice on the new one, my hand is right where the scales are starting to become the fluke. And if you'll notice over here, we are definitely well into the fluke in the same spot. So, you know, I do think the new one makes the tail look longer when it's on you. But I guess it's just a personal preference. I know a lot of people really like the old, the water kind of pattern on the old one, which I do too, so it's really neat. So I will miss that, but they're both beautiful. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's all I've got for you today. I do believe our Island Opal tails are going to be in the mail within the next couple days if they aren't already, so I'll have another video for you fairly soon when we get those tails, and that'll be the very last one. My ambassadorship is almost over. I'm not actually continuing with the program after we are done. It just has to do with some personal reasons. I'm going to go ahead and make my account private just because of my professional life and trying to make sure I can keep those two things separate. So we'll see. Maybe someday in the future I will become an ambassador again, but I've had a really, really great time. I want to thank FinFun for all the tales and all the amazing friends that I've made through this program. So before we go, I just did want to show my support for all of the Black and African American merfolk who are fighting this crazy system that, you know, gives me all these privileges just because of the color of my skin. And I recognize for sure that I've made a lot of mistakes, and that I definitely haven't done enough to support those merfolk. And I've been spending some of my time in quarantine reading books. I am a teacher, so I definitely have kind of come at this with the lens of what can I do to support my students and make sure that every student that I have, no matter what their color, their race, their background, that they're going to feel comfortable and welcome and loved and have that equal opportunity in my classroom. So we're working on, the education system as a whole has been definitely making steps in the right direction in terms of representation in the literature and the works that we're reading. But I've been, actually got to go to a conference in November where I was able to receive a lot of books, and a lot of the literature that's coming out now is featuring characters of color, and so I think that's really awesome. I found some really cool books that I'm excited to share with my kids, and I've also been reading up on some materials specifically for teachers and how we can be just making sure that we're creating equal opportunities for all of our students in the classroom and what that looks like and kind of how we have to change our mindset. So I haven't been posting a whole lot on social media. I've kind of been struggling with not wanting to feel like it's performative, and I'm just doing it to, you know, just post and to just post a black square. And I know that there's some really awesome things that I can be sharing, but I also don't want to cloud people whose voices are going to be just more important than mine right now. And I know that that doesn't make my voice any less important, but to just know that people whose voices have been considered not as important, we need to just be lifting those voices up right now. So I do want to make sure that I'm supporting all the merfolk and all the people in my life that are people of color, not just Black, but everybody. So yeah, I hope that hopefully when I make another video that we'll have more good progress being made, and that things we're gonna work in steps toward a more equitable future. And I guess that's all I can say really about that. You know, I don't feel like I can say too much. Just that I'm here for you guys, and that I want to do the best that I can. So I hope that you all have an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon.